Hey, BookTube. My Favorite Thing is Monsters is a 2017 graphic novel, the first volume of a graphic novel by Emil Ferris. She was born in 1962 in Chicago, and this novel follows Karen Rees, who was growing up in Chicago. It starts in like 1967, and she's living there with her mother and her brother Dees, and it's all about her coming of age. She draws herself in this novel as definitely the conceit is this is Karen drawing her own story of as a monster, and indeed the book is all lined with like all the I don't know if you can see all the blue lines of like a of all the blue lines of a exercise book. So this is like it's a young girl who's drawing her stuff. That said, it's very much a book of decidedly adult content. While this is Karen's coming of age story, it's also interweaved with upstairs. There's the mystery of of Anka Silverberg, and how did she die? Was she murdered? Did she kill herself? And indeed, as you go along in the story, you get Anka's story through tapes that Karen listens to of her life as a child, previous to the pre-war Germany, and then during the war as a Jewish person. So we're talking the Holocaust here, and so like the monsters are truly monstrous in this book. There is also there's cancer. There's attempted rape. This is a tough book. But it's all done and it's all done through the viewpoint of Karen, this pulp obsessed, art obsessed, young girl. Her brother Dees takes her to the Chicago Art Institute, where they go through the kind of the art of the of the place. So there's there's the Chicago Institute from the outside, and Dee's taking her young sister, but they also have like the art there, and she has like these wonderful sort of interactions with the art, and sometimes she actually just kind of going into the art. It's a book that's really rich with that sort of thing. You really get the sense of kind of these horrific faces, which sometimes remind me of R. Crumb, Robert Crumb, who's a big kind of the big indie influence, and indeed some of these these pages remind me of R. Crumb's very sexualized, very internalized kind of monstrous stuff. There's Dees, her brother. His art seems to be all over his body, reflecting also his own kind of his own inner demons, and he has this terrible guilt that seems to go throughout the book. But at other times, I look at stuff when you get to stuff of pre-war Germany. I think of like Otto Dix comes to mind as an artist that might be kind of like she's drawing on as influence to kind of get that texture. It's a book that took a while for me to actually start up. It wasn't actually until we finally did get to the Anka's story that I started kind of getting into the book. Like I felt like it started taking off for me, whether it was just kind of getting into that sort of thing, where it started to cohere a little bit more. It's giant, and it's in some ways I almost felt like, is this too baggy? Are we getting so many different elements kind of all thrown together because it's true? Or but I don't know. It does have the annoying thing of I'm not going to spoil the first volume of the book, and it's hard to kind of in some ways review something as I feel like I've got half, but this half ends with a dream sequence, which is sort of annoying. as a way to kind of deal with things. I mean, it's surrealistic and and fascinating, and she's so good at capturing kind of psychological states, just through the art, and the different pictures that I sort of like. Oh, why do we need to go to a dream sequence at the end to kind of make a narrative point? But that said, it's like it's super rich in all its different imagery, in all the pulp art, all the breasty babes and stuff like that, which at the beginning you think, oh, this is sort of her brother's influence, but as the book goes along, you realize that her brother and her actually share some tastes, which is a part of the coming of age thing. You can get the LBGT thing going there, also with sort of Franklin as someone steps in actually, when she's getting, when there's like real danger for her on the streets of Chicago. So yeah, it's one of these books that like, it's like there's too much, but like I think I want more. It took a while to get going, but once it got going, I really enjoyed myself. It has just a wonderful variety of different. You'll go from very kind of detailed, kind of artistic things to like more like tableaus. I think one thing I found of a criticism is sometimes maybe it is so arty that there's a sort of a thing with comic pages that a smoothly formatted comic page, your eye just knows where to go and you can kind of travel down the page. And I did find sometimes I was like, okay, I'm reading here, reading here, and oh, do I go over here or do I come down here? Which I think it was challenging. It was challenging that way, and I sort of wonder if that's something that is more the artist still kind of getting a hang of. How to construct a page that way. I mean, this is a 55-year-old artist who obviously has a lot of chops, but I did find there were sometimes I was like, okay, where do I go on the page? Which I don't think was always me being dim. But that said, that this is just like such a rich tapestry of art. It is something that, holy crap, this is heavy book. When they talk about monsters, we're not just talking pulp monsters. We are talking, there's child prostitution in this book. And that's Anka's story at the beginning it's straight on child prostitution. And it's like, it is heavy horror. And I would never show anything, fully graphic, but, that is an image of the little girl going up the stairs on the tongue of what monster's at the top, and that's a representation. That's not what happens, but we get her with more realistic interactions, which are not they're not graphic, but they're really tough. Which is something to know going into this book, and it's funny. And there's I think when I say too much, I almost think that those sections of that because that's where I really started lit up at first. I almost thought at first like, oh, could this thing be a thing on its own? Like this could be, which is funny because I think of like R. Crumb kind of doing the same sort of a kind of a wrestling with how to depict the Holocaust in his books. Obviously I can see that as another influence, or whenever a graphic artist is going to go. Not Art Crumb. When Art Spiegelman of Mouse fame, who drew Germans as cats and the Jewish people as mice, in his depiction of the thing, he had the framing device of a son talking to his father about it, and using that as a way of somehow being able to depict and also to make more of a nuance. And I think that's sort of what that's a part of what she's going with there. But because she doesn't have that kind of a connection with Anka, I wonder if it works as well, if it's as well embedded part of the thing, even though I think that that section there of pre-Germany, pre-war Germany, and then during the war Germany, really works. It still felt like I didn't know how well it incorporated into Karen's story. But this is also the challenge of it being volume 1, and I'm very eager to go on to volume 2. So yes, that is my hearty recommendation, with I guess my also heads up for my favorite things is monsters. And wow, it's something that I've got out of the library, and it's probably an expensive sucker, but $60 from Fantagraphics, I guess. 60? No, $39.99. Probably. Now, is that American? Because if it's $39 American, then it probably is $60 Canadian. However, yeah, it's something well, maybe I'll just get it out of the library and look through it again, because the library wants it back, and other people want to read it, which other people should read this. More videos later.